too.
Okay. As long as it does start. Okay, we're live. Finally, that wheel was just going round and around and around. So there's a 30-second delay, I think, with these things. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to come in. We've already got about 51 people here, but I'm just going to wait for a few more and test the tech side. And then we can get to know everyone that's coming in. So everyone that's here already, I would love it if you would just tell us in the chat box where you're from and also how long you've been a freelancer for, because those kinds of things interest me. So
yes, it's so good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
Is this Alyssa?
It's got to be Alyssa Barnes,
right? Is this Alyssa Barilla or Alyssa Barnes? I have no idea. I guess she'll tell us in a moment.
Alyssa Barnes has the double L, so I'm like, is that you, Alyssa?
Oh.
Hi, Sarah from Kansas.
Could be.
So glad you're here. Jamie from Florida. Wish I was there right now.
Me too. It is Alyssa Barnes. Hi,
Alyssa. Hi, Krista.
So we've got Adrienne from London.
Oh.
Hi Z. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Catherine.
Hey,
so we've got everybody coming in at the moment.
So fun. We've got freelancers for almost a year, 5 years now, Sarah. That's amazing.
Wow.
Awesome.
We've got someone from Argentina. That's amazing. Hi, everyone.
Allison from the Twin Cities.
Awesome. So, guys, if you're just joining now, be sure to introduce yourself in the chat box and let us know how many years or however many months, days, whatever, that you've been freelancing for. Awesome. Oh, we've got quite a lot of UK people as well, which is really cool.
Very cool.
As you guys can tell, I'm from the UK too.
And as you can tell, I'm not.
Yeah, you've got an American and you've got a Brummie here, so anyone who's from the UK will know what that means. Well, we've got Delissa, who has been freelancing for 3 months, so quite new to it. So
cool.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am just gonna jump right in and tell you a little bit about myself. Then Kayla can tell you about herself as well. So my name is Nisha, for anybody who doesn't already know me. I've been a full-time freelance designer for 5 years, and now I also teach other designers how to start, grow, and streamline their businesses through things like workshops like this one, things like ebooks, courses, and more. So this webinar is part of a new series that I've just started called Dear Designer, which is when me and a special guest hop on a live call just once a month, and we discuss one area of business that designers can improve that month. So this month, it's all about copywriting. And my lovely friend Kayla Hollitz is here. Is that how you say your last name, Kayla Hollitz?
It is. You're just a winner today.
Okay.
I love it.
Awesome. So Kayla is here. I just realized I'd never said it out loud, and then I was like,
sure.
So Kayla's here. She's an amazing copywriter and brand strategist. And she's going to be talking with me today about ways that you as designers can make an unforgettable impression on your website visitors with your copy. So I'll just let Kayla, I'll just let her explain a little bit more about herself.
Well, thank you so much again, Nisha, for having me here. And it's so exciting and so amazing to be here with your awesome community that's over here. It sounds like people have been freelancing, some for a little bit, some for a while. And it's just really fun to be able to connect with all of you and talk to you guys a little bit more about copywriting, because of course we all know, as you know, myself as a copywriter and content creator, but for you guys too, as designers, copy is a very incredibly important part of even the designing process. I know a lot of you design after you get the copy or content from a client. And I'm sure that a lot of that happens for, you know, when you're creating and designing your own website too. So I'm really excited to kind of get down to some of the basics that we'll be talking about before you even start writing a word of your copy, and then going into some of the more kind of higher level advanced strategies to be able to, like Nisha was saying, make a really unforgettable and irresistible impression with your website copy. So I'm excited to be here, and thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have you here as well as the first guest in this series. So, guys, I just want to quickly explain how the chat box works. If you have any questions for me and Kayla as we go through this, we are welcoming questions. It's going to be more like a Q&A style webinar than a slides-based webinar. So just put your question in the chat box and make sure to use the drop down at the side of the text box and select, I think it's a question mark. And then it will, select Q&A, and it will mark your question as a question so that me and Kayla can just spot the questions a lot more easily amongst the rest of the chat. So I think that is... Me too. We welcome any questions that you have about copywriting. So I think that's all of the tech stuff sorted, so we can just jump right into discussing copy. I know there were a few points that you wanted to discuss, like first and foremost, Kayla.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You're passing the baton to me, and I'm ready to run with it. So
I am.
One of the things that I really wanted to cover, especially before we really dive into a lot of your questions, as well as, like I was talking about before, some of those higher level strategy points, something that I always talk with for all of my clients is making sure that we have that really solid brand foundation down, because a lot of times it's very easy to start to think about, okay, I have all of these things on my to-do list, and copywriting is going to be one of them. But it's really great to dig back into all of the, what I like to call kind of the basics of your brand and your business, just so you're able to feel really good going into the actual copywriting of your website. So important.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I would say the first thing that I think is really important for you to be able to define for yourself is your purpose, or kind of what a lot of us in our industry call our why, right? Behind exactly what we do. Yeah. And so with that why, I think why it's important to kind of revisit that is that sometimes it's the same as when you first started your freelancing business. I know some of us have been at this for a few months, and then some of us have been at this for a few years. But regardless of exactly how your brand has evolved, I think it's really important to revisit exactly what it is that is your purpose, because I think so many times we can start to feel like we kind of just wear the hat of, well, I'm a designer, right? You get so used to just saying that title to people that you kind of forget, or it just really helps to kind of go back and define exactly what that purpose is behind what you do.
Yeah, and the thing is that your purpose is going to change over time. There's no stopping the fact that your why is going to change as your business grows. So it's good, like Kaya said, to just keep coming back to it, keep reevaluating it just over time, because as you grow, things change.
Absolutely. No, I think that that's such a great point. And I always think about too that, with my business, I feel like every few months, a new layer is kind of found in my purpose, which is so incredible to me, because, when I first started my business, a lot of it was because I wanted that freedom and that flexibility and all of those things that a lot of us are very attracted to as freelancers, and for kind of owning our own business and doing our own thing. But as I started to peel back some of those layers, and like you were talking about, Nisha, of kind of just revisiting all of those things, I started to find different areas of opportunity for, giving and generosity, and those parts of my business that are really huge and that I'm really going to be growing a lot more of this year too. And just, the different positioning that I'm able to have with clients, and the fact that I am able to be very blessed in being pretty selective with who I work with, because the heart needs to be the same between us. And so it's just, again, it's really great to just put it on paper, especially exactly what it is that is your why, and then keep revisiting and going back to it, as you peel back those layers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the why ties into your next point. I think you were going to mention something about core values, which tie in with your core purpose, hand in hand, really.
Absolutely. And I think your core values are so incredibly important. And like you said, they're very closely tied to exactly what your why and your purpose is. So I think in thinking about your core values, what I always recommend my clients do is just a super simple activity that you guys can do after this, because I know that it would take up some time to actually go through it all together. But usually what I recommend is to just kind of take some time for about, like 3 to 4 minutes with your journal and write down anything that you value. And that can be anything from, different types of variables in your business. It can be anything, even just in your personal life that you value too. And so after you start to create that list, take some time away from it, and then come back with some fresh eyes. And then I would love for you to highlight those 10 words that are super incredibly important. And it will be a little hard to narrow it down because, of course, we still value all of the things on that list. But it's really nice to narrow it down to those 10 things, because I call that your brand foundational values. So those are the things that are going to be really heavily tied and kind of anchor you into those things. But then from that list, I make it even harder. And I say that I would love for you guys to go in and then from those 10 words, try to narrow it down to about 5. And that's what I call your core values. And like I said, it is really difficult because there are so many things that we value, but I think being able to narrow it in, just like we narrow in our niche in different things that we do for our clients, I think there's a real power in that.
Absolutely. And once you figure out what your core values are as a designer, those 5 key values that Kayla was talking about, if you can get it down to those 5, then that means that on your website, you can convey those values to your potential clients who are reading through each page of your website, trying to decide whether or not you're the person that they should hire. So if you can figure out what your main values are and convey them to your website visitors, that'll be something that will really hopefully get to them and impress on them that you really do genuinely want to help them, and how you can do that. Absolutely. So I know the next point is one that I'm excited to talk about, which is ideal clients. You said that one of the things that you need to figure out before you write your website copy is who exactly your ideal client is. So I'm excited to see what you have to say on that point.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say too, because I know that you have a lot of experience with copywriting, as well as, your target audience changing over time too, which for a lot of us, that does end up happening the more that we grow. So I think being able to, just like everything else, right? I feel like the whole theme here is revisit everything. But it does really help to really narrow in exactly who you're talking to, because I don't know about you guys, but I have an extremely hard time writing if I don't know exactly who the audience is. And so one of those things, of course, is then figuring out exactly who that ideal client is for you. Now, one of the things that I see some of my clients struggle with is a lot of times they will be designers who are helping kind of a wide variety of industries. There are some designers who narrow in and know exactly what kind of industry they want to partner with. But then there's others that feel like, there's kind of other areas in their business where they start to make their more selective decision as to who they want to work with and who they don't, regardless kind of industry. And so for those people, since it happens so much with the designers that I work with, is I always say, if you don't necessarily want to go in with a very specific narrow industry, it really can help for you to start to think about some of those really, like, the digging deeper into exactly who that ideal client is, as far as like, what is their work style? What is, what is their ideal lifestyle? What does their ideal day look like? And then you can start to see, how can your business fit into their ideal day, and what can you offer that's going to help them achieve that kind of work-life balance that they may be looking for. And so I think it's just kind of a way to reverse engineer figuring out how exactly you can position your offerings and your services.
Yeah, Absolutely. I think that when it comes to target clients, I think that often designers, any other kind of freelancer, can overcomplicate the process.
Mm,
I mean, I know somebody asked me recently how they could figure out who their ideal client was, and they were doing things like writing down how much income this person makes and
sure.
what color hair they have, and like trying to depict this whole lifestyle, how many kids they have, even. And I just kind of think that you don't necessarily have to do all of that to figure out who your ideal client is. You don't have to make up this profile of a person and try and find clients that are exactly like that person. I personally, when I'm thinking about who my ideal clients are, I try and think of key things like, what are their fears? What are
Mm.
their goals? What are their desires? Is it going to be a man or a woman? Different things like this. And what kind of style do they have? Because for designers, style is everything. So
Yeah.
brand style is everything. So you need to really be targeting the kind of clients that are going to like your design style. So if, for instance, you like to design pretty things, girly things, then obviously your ideal client isn't going to be sports brands, or maybe isn't going to be men. It's most likely going to be women who have got businesses like wedding photography studios or event planners, things like that. So yeah, I think when it comes to sort of figuring out who your ideal client is, just ask yourself those key things about fears, desires, goals, um, those kind of things, and then that will help you to see who your ideal client is.
Yes, and I love that so
So
much because it becomes more about their motivations, and less about, yeah, exactly what they, physically look like. Because for a lot of us, that
yeah.
doesn't necessarily matter. It's more about finding,
No.
yeah, the power of their, yeah, the power behind their purchasing power.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I know there's like one more point in these four basics that you wanted to talk about, and then I'm thinking we could answer a
We
few
could go to
questions.
questions. We're getting
Because
pretty
there
good.
are some questions coming in, but yeah, let's just cover your last point in this section for the time
Sure.
being, which is a mission statement.
Awesome.
So remember, guys, we're talking about things that you need to cover before you start writing your website copy.
Yes, absolutely. So again, just as kind of a recap, we have your purpose slash your why. We've got
Yeah.
your ideal client that we were just talking about. And then we've got your core values. And now, just like you said, we're going to be talking about your mission statement. So for me, the mission statement is something that comes after kind of defining all of these things, because it becomes really easy to start writing it because you've got all of the kind of missing pieces that end up going into this mission statement. So a really easy framework to start thinking about your mission statement. And again, it doesn't have to sound exactly like this by any means, but it can just kind of start to help you as just a prompt to help you get going. And so you can start to think about setting it up as I help blank. So that's whatever your ideal client is, with blank. So it's whatever service that you are offering. Again, Nisha was awesome in talking about how you can start to think about their fears slash, pain points. You can start to think about the things that they struggle with. And those are probably most often going to be the things that you are going to be offering them as a way to help them. And then you can say, I help ideal clients with this specific thing through, and then whatever channels it is. So as you guys were hearing Nisha's intro, she did a really great job of this by saying, these are the ways that she helps designers build a sustainable business, but she does them through her courses, through her designer collective community, through different ways that she specifically helps her ideal clients. So that's just a really great example for how you can start to put together your mission statement. And then once you've got those foundational pieces, you can start to put a little bit more personality into exactly how you say it and how you read it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of those points. I love that you kept it like really simple
Yeah.
and just kept it down to, this is what I do for this type of people, and this is how I do it. Those are literally the main things that you need to have in your mission statement, I think. Just keep it really simple. The thing I don't know about you, whether you see this a lot, but the thing that I see quite a lot with freelancers and creative entrepreneurs online is that they will like overly fancify the mission statement or the tagline. So instead of keeping it understandable, like saying I'm a web designer, they'll come up with something too fancy, like I'm a web wizard or something like that. And
Yes.
and I always find it really like, I just don't think it's helpful to the freelancer because it confuses potential clients and they don't truly know what it is that you do. Like, I feel like when people land on your website, they should be able to tell what it is that you do within the first 5 seconds.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you just hit on one of the biggest things that we could ever say about copywriting, which is clear is better than clever. So many times, like you said, we feel like we have to give ourselves these really clever titles because there are so many different designers or so many different copywriters that are out there. But really, at the end of the day, it's really important to own that title that people can understand. And then you can add the personality around it without necessarily feeling like you have to call yourself something completely different, like a web wizard, which I have seen before. I just think that's such a great point.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point to keep in mind. So shall we just take a few of the questions that have come in so far? So there's one from Nina who has asked, Anisha, do you still design or just teach these days? I mainly teach, but I also still design. I've got a few select clients that I work with on a recurring monthly basis. And yeah, I'm fortunate enough nowadays to be able to be really, really select with the people that I work with on brand and website design and graphic design. So yeah, I still do a bit of both, but I just kind of keep the design in the background, and I'm focusing on teaching other designers at the moment. Let's have a little look. So Rachel has asked, what do you think about services pages, which are like sales pages for e-courses, where they identify the problem, show the benefits and solutions, the designer's bio, etc.? Do you think that it converts in terms of getting design inquiries better than services pages with just packages listed out?
This is a really great question. And I would say, just in kind of answering the first part of it, your services page, when you're copywriting for your services, it is going to be different than if you were copywriting for an e-course. And I'm sure, Nisha, you could probably say the same thing because you've done both of them, and the structure of them is very different. But I think kind of what you listed here about, like, first, of course, identifying the problem. So sometimes people go like straight in with the specific pain point or whatever the person is struggling with. There are other people who don't necessarily want to start with the pain point, and they want to start a little bit more with talking about the experience or something like that. Again, it kind of depends on exactly what the intent is behind it. But like you said, showing the benefits and solutions, that is amazing. I love that you said showing the benefits and solutions and not necessarily telling. So I think a great way to show the benefits and solution, of course, too, is what you'll see. A lot of people have those testimonials. So whether that takes a video testimonial format, which we're seeing a lot more of because it's such a great way to start. Oh my gosh, video testimonials. That's on my to-do list for sure. But you can also show testimonials, of course, in the more traditional sense of somebody who, after working with you, sends you the testimonial with the text, and then you put their photo next to it. That still works too. Or it can even just be a list of through this, if you're doing, whether it's your services or sales page, you could say, by taking this course or by working with me on this is what my clients have been able to do. And then you can start to talk about either the numbers, or you can talk about a specific, stage in their business that they were able to reach. You can start to get, again, really, really creative with this. And that is what I totally love about copywriting, is a lot of us will kind of start to work with a kind of similar framework because we know what's going to end up flowing and what's going to work well. But the way that we actually show that is where we get to be, really creative in that aspect. So I love that next you said, of course, the designer's bio, because you really want to make sure that when you are selling something, whether it's on a sales page or a services page, that you always have a photo of you with exactly what it is that you do, because you never know if somebody is going to that page and that's the first time they've ever learned anything about you or about your services. So let's see. I just want
I
to
am
make sure I'm
so glad. I'm so glad that you mentioned the photo thing, because a few times this year, different freelancers' websites where I've gone onto the website and everything looks amazing and their services look amazing. And then I've gone to just learn more about them or just kind of like see who they are, and I haven't been able to find a photo anywhere. And it kind of shocks me, because you'd think that that would be a basic thing to do. But
Sure.
but I guess some people are camera shy, or some people think that they shouldn't add a photo of themselves to their website because it's not a professional, fancy photo. But honestly, just any kind of headshot will do. Just get a friend with a smartphone or a decent camera to take a photo of you so that you can put it on your website, because it will build trust in your clients' or potential clients' eyes when they do go to your services page and think about hiring you.
Absolutely. I think especially in an industry like design, it is so important because, you know, you guys are working very hand in hand a lot of the times with clients. And so to be able to know and kind of start to feel like you even get to connect with the person before they inquire about your services, I think is so incredibly powerful. Because for me, I would feel very uncomfortable inquiring about something if I hadn't seen that person's face. And even if I look at their Instagram or their Twitter or something else and I still am only seeing their logo, I think it's something we don't always think about, but it is so important just to be able to also show your face as just a subtle way of also telling other people who are coming to your website that you are proud of what you offer and you are willing to put, you know, your reputation and your face behind what you do. And I think that's just a really powerful way to do that.
It is. It is. I would never hire anybody who hadn't got a photo of themselves on their website, because you just never know who they are. So just keep that little tiny but great tip in mind. So the next question is from a copywriter for you. It's from Stephanie. She said, as a copywriter, what's your advice for refining your process and amplifying your skill to be better for yourself and your clients?
Absolutely. You know, I feel like the simple answer to this question is, of course, making sure that you're always investing in yourself. And I think it doesn't necessarily matter if you are a copywriter or if you are a designer. And I will be honest and say that this was something that originally was pretty hard for me to do, just because I kind of pride myself on running a very lean business. But I have learned that, of course, if you want to be able to, you know, be a leader in your industry, you need to be able to invest in yourself and be able to learn other things, because it's so amazing how much we can all learn from each other, whether you're in the copywriting industry or whether you're in the designer industry, or even, you know, for both of our industries, since I work a lot with designers too, there's so much that I learn from all of you as well. So I think just making sure that you're always, consuming the most intentional kind of content you can, the types of content that is actually you're going to learn something from, which is why I totally love Nisha's site, because she's so educational and so great with that. But yeah, there are so many different ways that we can educate ourselves and keep refining our skills and our processes.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all such great points. So Nina has asked us, is there a strategy that you use to convey these brand values throughout all channels and don't drift anywhere? So Nina's talking about those core values for anybody who's new since we talked about this. Nina's talking about the core values that we discussed that Kayla said that you should figure out before you write your website copy.
Absolutely.
So is there a strategy to convey them consistently?
Sure. So this is such a good question. And I will say that my strategy has kind of changed over the years. I think one of the easiest ways to kind of put your core values into what you do is, of course, just blending them in with the rest of your copy. And so when your ideal client is going to be reading through your website, the core values are going to be within that copy, just as they're reading them. You don't necessarily have to always just very specifically call them out as in like, I value X, Y, and Z. But they can just tell by the way that you are talking with them, and kind of the way that you have positioned either your product or your service, that is what you value and that's how you feel. Sometimes the values can go into that bio place too. Like if you have that professional bio where you have a picture of yourself and you're talking about, even the motivation behind why you started your business, maybe that has to do a lot with your core values. That's just one example, but there's a lot of different ways that you can put this into your copy. But I will say one thing that I have really just enjoyed is, when I kind of relaunched my website in February, what I enjoyed doing was that I actually did call out exactly what my core values were at the bottom of my about page, along with my purpose and my why. So I have bullet points for each that show like, these are my core values. This is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And for me, it just helps because I think, when you're very intentional about that and you're showing people exactly what it is that you value, and what your purpose is, I think it's easier for people to start connecting with you right away too. And so if somebody reads those things and they don't connect with it as much, totally fine. But again, because I am pretty selective with the kinds of business owners that I like to work with, and I really want to make sure that they have the same heart that I do for the work that we're doing, that was a good strategy for me. But it all has to do with your goals.
That point. I love that point, that if you can figure out what your core values are and you can try and attract clients who also value those things, you're going to end up with such a good partnership between you and your client. You're going to avoid a lot of nightmare client situations because you have put your values out there into the world and you've attracted people who value the same things that you do in your work. So I love that point. That was really, really good. So where's the next question? Let me see. Amanda said, how do we create great copy while still including keywords to be relevant in the search? I think it's kind of two questions in one with her comment. Sure. So let's just take that first.
Yeah, that's super great question. Because of course we all want copy that's going to speak to our ideal client, but we also want to make sure that, of course, it's going to have some really great SEO value. And so I'm really thankful that I was able to get a lot of SEO teaching and background actually while I was in college, because I was working at a marketing firm. So that's kind of the first time that I started to learn all about kind of the SEO and the keywords and all of those things. So I would say one of the easiest ways that you can start to kind of look about the keywords that are going to be in your industry is using what is called the Google Keyword Planner. And so I know that there are a lot of different resources out there, especially on YouTube University, where you can start to learn kind of about how to exactly find what those keywords are. But for designers, a lot of them, of course, is going to be like the web design, graphic design, branding design, and then different variations of those terms, and just kind of intermixing those into your content. So that's the best way to kind of keep those keywords into your search. But I would say make sure that you are writing your copy for humans, which is really important because a lot of times you can tell when copy is written specifically for search engines and when copy is written for humans. And although you want that SEO value, you can still get just as much of that value, if not more, when you are speaking directly to your ideal clients, because those little Google bots that come into your website and, kind of sprinkle around the SEO benefits in a very simple way to kind of put it. They want to be able to boost the types of web content that is readable and is understandable for your audience. And so I think that's the most important thing to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about writing for the search engines versus humans and those sorts of things.
Yeah. And I would just quickly say on that point as well, is that if we're all being completely and utterly honest with ourselves, most of our clients have not found us through Google. They've found us through things like referrals or through social media or things like that. So I wouldn't stress out too much on SEO, because most of your clients aren't really going to find you through Google, in my experience with designers. So don't freak out too much about it. And like Kayla said, make sure that you just focus on humanizing your copy and actually making your website copy sound like how you talk in real life, because that's the best way for you to convey personality and convey your values to your ideal clients?
Absolutely.
So that was a great question. Let's see. Oh yeah, she had another part to that question. So she said, how do we get people to sign up for newsletters while not being too salesy or pushy with the copy?
Such a good question. And I know Nisha's going to have a lot of great things to say about this too, because she's done a lot of really awesome stuff with her email list building, which is a huge reason why all of you guys are here today too, which is awesome. But as far as getting people to sign up, if I just want to do like a really quick 1-tip soundbite, I think, of course, one of the easiest ways is to be able to give people some sort of freebie, or that lead magnet is what it's called in our marketing industry, of just helping people with something specific. A lot of times we'll create a lead magnet, around one of our blog posts, or, a lot of times we'll do a lead magnet that's maybe on our homepage. I know that Nisha and I both have some of those on our homepages too, just to be able to build our email list. But I think that's a really great way to be able to have people, come on your list that are still really interested in something specific that you offer, because it makes the most sense, of course, to create a lead magnet or that opt-in around one of your services or your offerings, because it's going to be really easy to tie it in to one of those things, or even your products too. So that's a great thing to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about exactly what do I want to kind of create an opt-in around. And then you can create, multiple blog posts on different things around that topic, where you can reuse that lead magnet and that opt-in. So you can kind of get the most out of the content that you're creating, which for all of us, we only have a limited amount of time. So that's the best way to kind of get the biggest bang out of your buck for the amount of time you're spending on those things.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think with the copy that you're using to ask people on your opt-in boxes to sign up, I guess if you didn't want to be like too pushy, I mean, there's a difference between being pushy and being direct. So you do have to call people to action. So you do need to say like, sign up and you'll get blah, blah, or enter your email address and I'll send you blah, blah. You do have to be like direct so that they know exactly what to do to get the lead magnet that Kayla was talking about. But if you don't want to sound too salesy, I guess that you could just like make it sound more friendly. Like, hi friends, sign up for my guide on color psychology or something like that. So
no, I think that's a really great point.
Yeah, hopefully we've answered her question. Let's see. And Jamie has asked, where should your design process outline go? Under your about page or services page? So
that's a really awesome question. So with this, I would definitely say put it into your services page, because if you start to think about kind of the goals of each page and what the intent is for people who are coming to those pages, your about page are going to be people who want to learn more about you, what it is that you offer, some of those things. And then usually what I recommend my clients do is use the about page really as kind of like a subtle, almost little like sneaky way to get people over to the services page. Because most of the time when you're reading the about page, if somebody is like really gung-ho about what you do and they're like, this person is perfect, I found the most amazing website, but there's no link to kind of go over to the next thing, which is, that services page, when you're working with clients in that way, then you're kind of just stopping that momentum. So I would say the greatest thing to do then would be to use that about page, like we've been talking about, have a link over to your services page, and then outline more of the specifics of your design process and what is unique about what you do and what your specific deliverables are and those packages and those sorts of things. So hopefully that helps to answer your question.
Yeah, and I love where this conversation is going. I want to talk a little bit more about on a sales page for designers. I think that's maybe one of the things that they struggle with the most, the designers that I've talked to and coached, because they're not copywriters, they're designers, and they're not quite sure like how much information is too much to put on a sales page, services page, sorry, or what should even be included on that page. So I would love us to talk about what you think designers should put on the page. And I've got a few things to add to it as well, but I thought we could open up that discussion for everyone.
Sure. No, that's such a good question because, of course, when we're thinking
Yeah.
about, being service-based entrepreneurs, that services page is probably one of the most important pages on our website. Especially, it's definitely the most important from a lead generating standpoint. So, I think it really, I mean, it's hard to say, but of course, it really depends on exactly what your goals are too. I know for a lot of designers that I work with, sometimes their goal is for them to contact them through their email. Sometimes the goal is for them to book a free consultation, like 30-minute call or discovery call that you see a lot. For other ones, it's to reach out and get kind of a package or pricing PDF guide. I mean, it really runs the gamut. And I think because there are so many different, call to actions like we've been talking about, and just keeping it very simple as to one on each page, I think kind of the overall framework, we can have something in mind, but it is going to be very dictated by exactly what it is that we want people to do as far as like when they become a lead.
Yeah. So true. I feel like with a sales page, you should choose one call to action. So one action that, like Kayla was saying, that you want your potential clients to take after seeing the services page, and just keep sort of like slotting that call to action in the page as they go down. So for me, when it comes to a services page, sorry, can we see Nisha in full screen mode when she's speaking? Oh, I didn't realize that it wasn't doing that.
Oh man, so you guys have just been seeing my big face the whole time.
I have no idea. Can you guys see me in the tiny thumbnail, or is it just Kayla that you can see? Sorry, let us know that in the chat
hilarious.
box. That is so funny because we had camera problems before the webinar started, so it'll be hilarious if we actually didn't manage to get it sorted like we thought we did. What was I even going to say? Oh yes, services pages.
Oh no.
Okay, so you guys can kind of see me. I'm in a little thumbnail. I wonder how that would even work. Okay, we'll leave it for now, guys, but I'm going to get that sorted for the next webinar. I don't want to go around like clicking too many things and I don't know.
Thank you, Divine, though,
breaking the webinar.
That awesome comment. You get brownie points from me.
Yes.
Thank
you for letting us know. Yeah, so on your sales page, just keep getting that call to action like every now and then. Like, don't just put it at the end of the sales page. So if you want your potential clients, after they've read your services page, to head on over to your contact page and get in touch, then don't just put the contact button at the bottom of the services page. Keep on slotting it in throughout your website copy on that services page. And I think that designers can include things on their services page, like you said earlier, testimonials are a must. You have to have those. Somebody mentioned the design process. You have to explain to your clients how the process works on that services page. And you could also do, touching on what Kayla talked about earlier on, you could also, in your copy, explain what the fears are of your potential clients, what problems they've been having, and how your service can be a solution to those problems.
Love it. Yeah. Totally agree with all of it. Hands down. Yep.
Awesome. So let's see what else has come up in the chat box as regards to questions. So Lloyd has said, curious about having a web/brand audit landing page as an intro service for attracting leads. So I guess he's talking about, like on my website, how I've got a landing mat, which is when you first go to my website, you don't see the homepage. You'll see just a landing page with a button to either my website or my free course. I think that's what you're talking about, Lloyd. Let us know if I'm wrong. But what do you think of those, Kayla? Because this has been in my mind too, because I'm not quite sure whether to leave the page there or whether I should be just having the homepage as the home page.
Sure. So I think, because I know you're talking about kind of like that cover page that you have. But as far as at least what I think I'm understanding from the question is, it's kind of using a web brand or audit, probably that's a lower tiered pricing, and the specific landing page for that. And then actually using those people who become the web and brand audit customers to then kind of introduce them to your services so you can start to build more of that long-term relationship. That may or may not be exactly what you're asking, but that's kind of what I'm taking from the question. So I think in that sense, I think that could be a really amazing strategy for being able to, again, kind of give clients a whole lot of value up front for something with showing them, like you're talking about, that web and brand audit, to be able to say, like, here are all of the different things that you could be fixing for your conversion, for your design, for your copy, all of those things. It's incredibly it's incredibly valuable all on its own, but it's even more valuable if people start to think like, whoa, I've got all these things, and I know you're super right in saying that I need to kind of change up some of these things, but I don't know exactly how to do it, or I don't have the capacity to do it. And that's where you can, of course, like you were talking about, step in and start to say, hey, these are the services that I offer. And hey, I even partner with maybe a copywriter or a photographer or whoever those, that creative team ends up being, in order to attract more of those people. So hopefully I understand that question correctly. But I do think that could be a really great way to attract leads.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to our next copywriting point, Vicky has asked, can you talk a little bit about voice? I love this question. Maintaining a consistency with your site in both visuals and copy.
Oh my gosh.
I love
that question. Such a good question. Yeah, because I really,
you can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I spend a lot of time with my clients going over brand voice, and I have kind of a signature process for exactly how we develop their brand voice that I go through with my higher tier copywriting clients. But it's really great, again, like you're talking about, to start thinking about what is the consistency of that brand voice, because I think for a lot of you, there are, of course, so many designers, just like there are quite a few different copywriters out there. So I think at the end of the day, what we have, even beyond just the design aesthetic and the different types of work that we've done, is our brand voice, because that's exactly how we communicate with people. And so I think your brand voice, really trying to get it to be aligned with your speaking voice, your written voice, all of those different kinds of voices that you have, even your design voice, in a sense, is really, really smart, because like you're talking about, it's very important to be consistent. And so I think the best way to start thinking about your brand voice, and something that I recommend for my clients, is just a simple way to start thinking about it, is to start talking aloud about who you are, what you do, why you do it, all of those things, and record yourself, because then you're going to be able to start to think about, what words am I saying a lot? What phrases do I keep using over and over again? And when do I sound like I'm the most confident? And that's probably the way that you should be positioning yourself. So I think that's a easy way to start thinking about your brand voice, instead of making it kind of like this mystical thing that we can never quite get to, because it really can be quite simple as we keep working through writing and speaking and all of those things in brand voice.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your brand voice, I like to think of a brand voice as just writing the way that you speak. So, so one thing that I've got a free brand discovery course, and inside the course there's a module that's it's all about design and branding, but you can apply it to your brand voice as well. One of the exercises that I get people to do is just record themselves talking about their expert topic, about their services, for 5 minutes, and just see what words keep coming up, and the tone of voice that you're using, and are you a serious talker, or are you a happy, chatty talker? And then that will hopefully really help you to figure out your brand style and your brand voice.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with all of that too. And I think it's really great to start thinking about, the type of brand voice that you are. And I know I've got a free kind of brand voice style quiz on my website that's been so fun. But the different personalities that I have within that is the storyteller, the connector, the educator, and the visionary. So in all four of those types, again, there's a lot of people who are going to be in a lot of different umbrellas of those things. But even in those four, the way an educator is going to speak to you is completely different than the way a visionary would talk to you. And so I think it's really great. And that's just like one specific example, but it's really great to start thinking about, like what the goals are of your content, what the goals are of your brand, and how you're going to be able to speak to those things in a way that feels authentic and natural. So if somebody comes up to you at a networking event, with which I'm sure for Nisha, it's the same thing. Like, it always feels so good when somebody comes up to you and says, like, you sound exactly like I thought you would, or you're exactly who I pictured that you would be. So I think that's when you know that your brand voice is like really on point.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And on a similar kind of topic, because we've only got 10 minutes left of the webinar.
Oh, sure.
Let's talk
going, right?
about, I know it's gone by so fast because we've had so much to talk about, but let's talk about injecting personality into your copy. And one of the things that I want to discuss is how to make sure that you're not too heavily influenced by the brand voices of entrepreneurs that you are inspired by. Have you got any advice on that? Because when I was a kid, I used to, I really wanted to be a writer, so I was always writing all the time. And I loved Jacqueline Wilson, who's an author in case anybody doesn't know. And my voice, like my writing voice, actually started to turn into hers because I was so heavy.
Yeah, sure. No, I get that. And honestly, I think, if anybody could struggle with that, I feel like it's kind of me, because I am writing in the voice of all of my different clients, as well as, of course, trying to stay very consistent with my own voice. So I think for me, what has helped, especially since I'm kind of trying on the voice of so many different business owners that I work with, it's always nice for me to set aside time to first write for my business. And then second, write for myself. And I've learned that there is a difference between writing for myself and writing for my business. But usually when I write for myself in a way that's either journaling or poetry or something that's, beyond what I do for my business, it helps me in cultivating exactly what my voice is, so then I can bring it into like my brand voice, right? Because you've got that personal voice. It's going to maybe look a little bit different for brand voice too. And I know it's different for designers as it is for writers, as it is for photographers and those sorts of things. But I do think it's really great to just start to free write, or again, free talk and record yourself, so you can start to figure out exactly what your brand voice is. Because if we're consuming too much, and I think that's the biggest point probably here is, we want to be very intentional about what we're consuming and who we're consuming that information from, because we don't want to, like you said, kind of get into a slippery slope of where we're starting to sound like someone else. And our audience may be able to tell that it doesn't quite sound like us when we're on calls with clients or those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of those points. They're just such great points. And again, bringing it back to free speaking or free writing, I think you said, just record yourself, see how you talk, and make sure that you're writing in the same style as you would talk to your friends or your husband or whoever it is. Just keep it personal. I love that Nina's mentioned that you can sometimes get the same problem with design, where there's too much inspiration and your design style starts to morph into the style of somebody else. But yeah, I think when it comes to design, one way, I know Kayla spoke about recording yourself to help realign with your voice, but if you're having problems with morphing into somebody else's design style, one thing that always helps me is to create a Pinterest board that's just for my brand and my aesthetic. And whenever I'm on Pinterest, if I see something, if I see a design that I just like, or just a photo or anything of the aesthetic of, I'll pin it to my brand board, which is like my personal brand board, so nobody else can see it, it's secret. And yeah, that just really helps me to make sure that my style is always in line with that collection of images that's in the style that I really truly love. So yeah, a few tips for you guys there on design as well as copywriting.
That's so good. I love it.
Absolutely. So if anybody else has any more questions about copywriting, about writing the copy for your website, and ask away, because we have only got like 5 minutes left. I don't want to keep Kayla here all day long.
I feel like we could talk forever about this.
We could. It's one of those topics that you've just got so many different things that you could cover. We could just go on all day long, but we can't, because you've got to eat and I've got to watch Beauty and the Beast tonight. So
Exactly.
yes. So Nina has asked, it's not a copywriting question, but we can still answer it. Kayla and Nisha, how long did it take you to go from starting to being fully booked and selective about your clients? I know you, Kayla, I think it was one of your Instagram stories recently. I've seen it somewhere where you said you're somewhere where you said you're very selective with your clients now. You only take on like one a month. So could you talk a little bit about that? I'm in a similar position.
Absolutely. No, this is such a good question. And I will say, especially my whole entire journey, even in blogging, before I got to my entrepreneurial journey, it's been quite the transitions and winding road, like I know a lot of us have had. But more recently, when like you were talking about, Nisha, how I talk about how I'm really only taking one website copywriting client a month. And usually why that is because I've started to really realize, and I think hopefully this is something that can help you guys as designers too, is just starting to think about even beyond the specific design that you deliver to a client, what it is that you do in the background too. The more that I realize, like, I don't necessarily just write copy for clients. I also am helping them with their website strategy. I'm helping them with their brand strategy, helping them with their content strategy. And a lot of that, of course, is going to take time. And for me, especially as a copywriter, I feel, again, kind of uncomfortable if I don't feel like I know the brand voice of the person that I am going to be writing in. And so I really do take a lot of that time to just really get to know them. And so in that sense, in order to really have the best kind of byproduct of what I work with my clients on, it just makes the most sense for me to really be more selective in that way. But I will say, as far as the question goes of just kind of figuring out like how long did it take, I guess for me, it almost became more so of a mindset. There wasn't a time where I was like, oh, now I can be super selective, like, let's do this. But it was more so of a understanding what my business needed in order to be sustainable and the types of relationships that I needed to have with my clients in order to be able to give them the value that I wanted to be able to give them. It really ended up being that selectivity was something that was going to be really important. And so I think the best thing to think about is, again, all of those things that go on behind the scenes and what you need in order to be successful. And then having that mindset really of just knowing what it is that you really want to go after and who that ideal client is, because it helps.
Absolutely. Great answers to that one. So we'll just quickly take a few of the questions that have come in. Simona said, how do you know when you become too personal in your copy? Is there such thing as too personal?
Sure. This is such a good question. And it's something personally that I've been thinking about too, because, I consider myself a pretty personal person as I'm writing my own copy, but I have been realizing that there is a pretty big difference between being transparent in your business as well as, the vulnerability aspect of things. And so really what I try to do is when I'm thinking about a personal detail that's either going on in my life or that I've wrestled with in the past, I always think about, if I share this, is this in service to my ideal client and my audience? And if it is something where I'm just kind of telling a story to tell a story, that's fine. But at the same time, it's really going to be good if you really only share those stories that are going to relate back in some way to your ideal client. So whether it's going to relate back to their business, it's going to relate back to something that maybe they struggled with even personally, because you've gone through that ideal client, kind of the ideal day and the different kinds of lifestyles and those sorts of things. If you know that is going to really tug at their heartstrings and be an emotional connection that really can help you, with just making that connection with them stronger. But hopefully that can kind of help to start to think about when something is too personal, because I also think that with our instincts, we kind of have a gauge of what feels right and what doesn't. So
Absolutely.
hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. Leva has asked what you suggest someone to do whose first language isn't English.
Oh,
I
wow.
am just going to dead quickly plug my laptop charger in because my laptop's about to die, but I will leave you to answer that one without me for like 1 second. I
Yes,
don't
we
want
don't
it to
want
end
your
too
thumbnail to like go down and be like, where did she go?
completely disappear. See you in 1 sec.
You know, that is a really good question, as far as if English is not your first language. And so, you know, I would really say that you've got some different options here, right? So it really depends on how comfortable you feel with where English is at as far as your understanding of the language. And so if that is something where you feel like, you know, in order to really be able to connect with people who are either here in the US or the UK or wherever that may be, having a hired on copywriter can definitely help with that. But something that can also really help too, and something that I try to help some clients with because I have a big heart for people who are kind of those budding entrepreneurs, but may not necessarily have the budgets for that original copywriting, is you can also look for somebody who is a copy editor. So what that means is if English is not necessarily your first language and you really just want to be able to have somebody's eyes kind of look over your English and your copy, but it's something that you've already written, it can be a low budget way for you to be able to have that peace of mind of, you know, somebody who does have English as their first language has looked over it as a writer and as an editor. And they are saying that these are maybe the certain things that you should edit, but then these are the things that sound really great. So again, there's just kind of different options that you can have depending on what your budget is and what your comfortability is. But hopefully that helps you feel pretty empowered to kind of move forward.
Yeah, those are all such great suggestions for people whose first language isn't. Yeah, thank you so much, Kayla, for coming and hanging out with us for a full hour of copywriting wisdom and tips. It's been so much fun. And guys, let me know if you've enjoyed this as well, because like I mentioned before, I'm hoping to turn this into a monthly series where I'll have guests like Kayla coming on each month who are experts in their own niche, who will be able to help you refine one area of your business per month. So let me know if this is something that you want to keep continuing. And I just want to quickly say, oh, thank you guys. I just want to quickly say that we won't be sending the replay out to everyone who's registered. But the replay will be inside the She Answers Club. So if you want to keep rewatching it, if you want to refer back to Kayla's tips in the future, then feel free to come and join us and you'll be able to watch her replay along with all of the other workshop replays that I've got in store for you. So that is the end of that. Thank you again so much. It's been so much fun. And I will leave you and everybody else who's joined us to have a lovely rest of their day.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it was great. Bye, guys, and we'll see you. I'll see you next month with the next guest.